It was a weekend after a long, hectic week at work. I'm just a regular 9 to 5 guy, so I was really looking forward to relaxing. My son and I decided to visit my brother's house, just to chill out and unwind. By the time we were heading back home, it was already past midnight. The night was pitch dark, covered in fog and mist, the kind of cold, eerie December night that gives you chills for no reason. I still wonder why my 3-year-old son Miles was wide awake at that hour. The long road ahead was getting creepier and quieter as we drove. As we passed a small graveyard, nothing grand, just rows of plaques and a few fresh flowers, something strange happened. Miles suddenly stopped humming his little tune. The silence that followed gave me instant goosebumps. Then, in a low, almost uneasy tone, he said, "Daddy, look at those people." My heart skipped a beat. His voice, it didn't sound like him. It was eerie, shaky, almost cold. I tried to ignore it, thinking it was just his imagination, but I slowly turned my head toward the graveyard anyway. There was no one there, just stillness and fog. I forced a smile and told myself it was nothing, but then Miles looked up at me again, his eyes wide open, and said, "There sure are a lot of grandmas." That sentence froze me. My heart started racing, my chest tightening. I could barely breathe. Trying to stay calm, I asked softly, "Miles, what are they doing?" He looked straight at the graveyard, then turned to me and said, "They're all looking at you." In that moment, my blood ran cold. Every instinct told me not to look back again. I gripped the steering wheel tightly, pressed hard on the gas, and drove home in silence. Neither of us said a word. When we finally reached home, I tried to shake it off, made some dinner, and let Miles watch his cartoons. After a while, I even laughed to myself, thinking it was just a kid's wild imagination. But then he spoke again. He was sitting on the floor, staring quietly out the window. Without turning his head, he said, "You know, Daddy, they weren't alive." I swallowed hard and asked, "What do you mean, Miles?" He turned toward me, his eyes big and unblinking, and said, "The people, they were paused." That word, paused, still echoes in my mind. The look in his eyes, the eerie smile, the silence, it all sent chills down my spine. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined those paused people standing in the graveyard, staring. A few weekends later, we drove past that same road again, the same cemetery. It was a gloomy winter sunset, and the air felt heavier than usual. Miles sat quietly in the back seat, until suddenly he started crying. Not a normal cry, it was deep, strange, almost frightened. I stopped the car, and without realizing, we'd halted right in front of the cemetery. I turned to him and asked, "What happened, buddy?" He looked at me with tears in his eyes and whispered, "Make them stop looking at me." My heart started pounding so fast that I could feel it in my throat. I hesitated, but something made me look toward the graveyard again. The place was calm, still, empty. But then I saw it. A face, pale, distorted, sitting near the edge of the cemetery. Large eyes, a slow, creepy smile that stretched wider and wider the longer I looked. Every part of me froze. My body trembled. My heart thudded in my chest. I pressed the accelerator and drove away as fast as I could. It's been months since that night, and I've never gone near that road again. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm alone, I still feel that same presence watching me, with that same slow, creeping smile.
I'm Evelyn, and I still remember that night so clearly. Maybe because it started off so ordinary. I had invited a few friends over for a small seance, kind of like a spooky storytelling night. We were just a bunch of curious teenagers, you know? There was me, Lena, Chris, Sarah, and Ellie. We had everything ready. It was almost midnight, around 12:07. I remember exactly. The room was dim, only lit by flickering candles. The air smelled of melted wax and dust. We had a candlelit altar, a circle of salt, a chalice of juice, not even real wine, and, of course, an old Ouija board I'd found in my grandmother's attic. At first, it was thrilling. We held hands, whispered silly questions, and waited for the planchette to move. But it didn't. Then, things started to change. The door suddenly began banging, loud, heavy thuds echoing through the room. At first, we laughed it off, thinking it was just the wind or maybe the house creaking. But the sound kept getting louder, harder. That's when fear began to creep in. And then, Chris, in his usual joking tone, smirked and said, "Spirits of this house, if you're here, prove it." The moment those words left his mouth, a sudden gust of freezing wind blew through the room, so strong it blew out every single candle at once. The room fell to absolute silence. My heart started racing. We all looked at each other, frozen in the dark. And then we heard it. The mirror behind us crashed to the floor, shattering into 1,000 pieces, like something had thrown it. Ellie screamed. Sarah started crying. And that's when the banging on the door came back, louder this time, angry, relentless. It sounded like someone was trying to break it down. We could even hear footsteps outside. Slow, heavy footsteps, and soft gasps, like someone was standing right behind the door. Goosebumps spread across my arms like grains of salt. My throat went dry. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. We all huddled together, trying to relight the candles, but my hands were shaking so badly that I dropped the match. Then the windows began to rattle violently, as if the entire house was alive and breathing. Finally, I managed to light one candle. The flame flickered, and in that faint light, I saw something that made my stomach drop. There were 3 long, red scratches running down Ellie's arm, fresh and bleeding. We panicked. We tried to read the closing words from the old book just to end the seance properly. The moment we finished, we ran. We didn't even look back. But as I passed the broken mirror on the floor, I made the mistake of looking down at it. And what I saw is something I'll never forget. It was my reflection, but my face was half burned, one eye popped out, and there was this horrifying grin stretched across my face. My chest tightened. I could barely breathe. We bolted out of that house as fast as we could. For days after that, I couldn't sleep. I avoided every mirror in my house. For 3 weeks, I didn't look at my own reflection. I felt like something was watching me, waiting. Then one night, I woke up to the sound of a child crying. At first, I tried to ignore it, thinking it was just a dream. But it wouldn't stop. I got up to get some water, and as I turned around, my eyes accidentally met the mirror on the wall. And there she was. The same girl. My reflection. crying. I screamed and ran straight to my parents' room, telling them everything that had happened. Since that night, I've been sleeping in their room. Everything seems normal now, mostly. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear that same faint crying. And when I do look into a mirror, my reflection moves. Just a second later. I don't think the girl ever left the mirror.